Okay, I think everybody can see the screen. I'll just change over to, this is on number 39 on the Machen's book. Now, I think everybody can hear me now. Can somebody just say they can?
Yes, Pastor.
Oh, thank you.
I can hear
Okay,
you.
very good. Okay, so we'll start the Greek lesson now. I just want to review quickly back. This is page 26 of Machen's book. For some reason, why is that not showing? Probably should show my picture here. You can see my face. Okay. The PDF of this was sent into the Facebook Messenger. So if you don't have the PDF, just let me know. You can scroll back and try to find it. If you can't, then I can send it to you again. But you should be able to, you can get this on your computers. I would probably ask Pastor Fetty or John that if any student cannot get access or not open this up on the computer, you might have to print off the book itself. Even if you just do the first few chapters, the book itself there's about 300 pages. It's got a really nice dictionary, a lexicon on the back of it as well. But maybe next month or at some point you can actually photocopy off that whole book so everybody's got a copy for themselves. It's just a nice resource to have. Now we're looking at declensions of the nouns. I'll just do this quickly before we go over the homework. This is a review. And you need to understand clearly, I think some people are still missing the sort of the point about how in the Greek, the nouns will take on what they call the cases. And a noun, depending on the way it's written, will tell you that it's the nominative. This is N, nominative. And a certain declension. Here we have the word son, huios. And it has the stem here, the upsilon and the iota with the rough breather over that gives you the H sound of it. So that's huios, and it's the nominative. N means nominative, and that means it's the subject of the sentence. Now in the Greek as well, the Koine Greek, you also have to understand that the grammar order, the order of the words is just totally irrelevant. And there might be some relevance, but really we don't learn about Greek grammar as being what order things need to go in. In English and in the Philippine language, and in Chinese and Thai and most other languages in the world, you have to put things in a certain order, otherwise people can't understand what you're saying. But in the Koine Greek, it's actually quite different. The speaking might have been maybe more orderly than the writing. I'm not sure about that aspect. But you can see a sentence, and it's where usually in English we subject, verb, object. And in the Greek, it can be verb, object, subject, subject, object, verb. Now, it can be any particular order. And the order doesn't matter because the nouns are going to take on different forms to tell you if it's the subject or the object, regardless of the position. Okay, so remember the nominative, it's like, if you remember the word to nominate means to choose and say this. So this is the person that you're talking about. This is the main, the person that's doing the action or the main thing that you're talking about. It's in the subject, or he's the subject, it's the nominative. And you have a different way of writing that, whether it's in the singular or the plural. And these endings, you've actually got different case endings for different verbs, whether they're masculine or feminine or neuter. Okay, and then even sometimes there's exceptions that a masculine noun might take on a neuter or a feminine ending. So it can get a little bit confusing, but when you're looking through the Greek Bible, there's actually it's sort of limited in the vocabulary that you do have as far as the stems go. Okay, so and if there are words which might be like one-off type words, there's actually a name for that. We call it hapax legomenon, which means there's just one word that it'll only appear one time in Scripture. It's not really a word that you obviously that you have to study specifically, but if you see it come up, you go to the dictionary and you can say, okay, this word only appears one time, and they'll tell you the endings for that and what the case is. Okay, but So here we're talking about, just as the example, we os, that's nominative. Then we have the genitive, we u, which means of or from. And that's really how you translate. If you see the word we you mentioned, for example, just say to yourself of a son or belonging to a son or something like that. So when you're doing the translation from the Greek to the English, that's how you can translate it in your head. We o is for, but it can be by means of. And in our example today, 1 Peter 1:19, we'll see that. That can be by means of. It's the way of doing something, like by means of the Son. And you might have this dative of the word weos talking about Jesus Christ, like we were saved by the Son or through the Son. We can translate it as through the Son, and you'll see that the word weos here is actually used in the dative case, which would be pronounced weo. And something I should mention also is that with your homework, when you were having to write from English to the Greek, and I think that was probably a very mean thing of me to do, but it was in the textbook. The average score, and I'm sorry I had to say quite blatantly to some of you that you failed, because usually what I would do when I send your test back, I would say pass, and then you have the score then. A pass is anything above 5. Even a 5 would be a low pass. And then you would have, sometimes I would say that it needs to be resubmitted if there's just something you need to fix. But in the last week with some of the Greek lessons you sent, it's the first time we had to say fail. And it was quite a lot of it. It was over half of you that sent the test and which got a fail mark. The highest mark I had seen was Pastor Fetty. That was 4.5. Until last night I got Ryan's test marked in, and I think Ryan's going to be is Ryan here today? Haven't seen him come up on the, let me just see. I think Ryan's going to be a genius as far as Greek goes. He's not here for the lesson, but he got 10 out of 10. It made me wonder actually if he'd seen the score key, which I'd been sending out already, but there was one actual question he answered, he got right, and I checked, I thought it was wrong, but I checked my answer sheet that I had, and I'd actually got it wrong, and he'd got it right. So anyway, he's not here for me to congratulate him in front of everybody, which is probably a good thing. But anyway, but the average mark was just 2 or 3 marks out of 10, going from the Greek, the English to the Greek, trying to write out the Greek yourself. So we've still got quite a long way to go, which is why we're just reviewing here. Okay, so again, you just have to remember these declensions. The dative, also locative or instrumental of means, telling you how to do something. That's you see that D come up on your software if you see the word, and we ois is the what do you call it? Oh, that's the plural form of that. Okay, we on. Now here we have the accusative, which is the object. It's a thing that's been acted upon. And sometimes you might say like they were speaking words of truth to the servants, and so they were speaking. Obviously, they, or you say like the apostles were speaking. So the apostles is going to be in the nominative. They're the subject. They're the ones doing it. They were speaking. There you have the verb there. So again, that would be the that's the third person plural form of the words to speak, legusin, and then you would have words of truth. Now the words of truth they're speaking, or just words maybe, or speaking a law, talking about a law, that would be in the accusative. Okay, and then they're speaking to, say, to the servants or to the slaves. So the word slaves, doulos, would be in the dative in that case. So it's showing that direction towards the servants. In that case is from doulos, which would be the singular nominative. It becomes the plural dative, speaking to the slave. So that would become doulos, and you pick up the ending from here, and then you put it on the end of the word doulos. You take off the omicron sigma, and you put on the ending here that fits with the dative plural. Okay, but I'll show you now. So we've got the test key. Let me just share this. This comes up. a very slow job. Share. Here it is here. Okay, and I did actually have to make that adjustment again. It was after Ryan sent his test in, and I realised that I'd got it wrong and he got it right. So yeah, we have a genius in the midst, maybe. But so number 9 is, we'll just go through this word by word, and then you can sort of see how it all fits together. Now, when you're looking at a sentence like this in English, we write, this is the subject of the sentence. So often it just makes it easier for us to put the subject first. So that's what I had here. What is the word to say we write? You have to look at the verb, and remember the pronoun goes with the verb. And now there is a pronoun, a separate pronoun for we, but when you're doing the homework, don't go outside of anything that we've already tested, that we've already been learning. Because some of you're bringing in words from other places which we haven't even done yet, and the homework is, the way it's designed is not designed that you have to go and look for new words or new concepts. And the verbs, some of you are putting in the aorist form. Maybe you're looking at a chart somewhere, something like that. We haven't studied the aorist yet, so you're not going to have to use the aorist form in your homework. And we're trying to keep things basic, so just stick to what we've been learning when you're doing this. And in this case, when you see the word we write, what you'd do is you'd have a look for the word write, which is grapho, and then it's we. So what is the first person plural of the word write? Grapho, and that's graphomen. So you can write down the word graphomen. And then from there you can say, well, what are they writing? What words and laws? Now, words and laws in this case is that's what we would call the subject, the object of the sentence. That's the thing that's being written by these people. It doesn't even say we apostles, it just says we, so you had graphomen. So the word words and laws, you'd find the word word, remember if it's singular, nominative, that's logos, but if it's plural and now it's in the accusative, the words aren't doing anything, they are actually being acted upon, then we say logos. Okay, so what are we writing? We're writing laws, words here, and nomos. And actually this lambda here, this is a capital lambda. It should actually, I think because I changed things around, it should be the small lambda, which is this one here. But I've got the capital. Okay, so again we have graphomen, that's we write, logos, words, kai, and nomos, laws. And now we've got the word adelphos, which would be our brother, but now it's in the dative form, the plural dative form. And as we just saw on the chart, that's going to be, I had adelphos, you take off the omicron sigma, and you put omicron iota sigma on the end instead, and that tells you dative plural. So that's the first part of that sentence. And then it's the same process for the next part, legomen. See, lego, if this was, if you had the omega here, lambda, epsilon, gamma, omega, that would be lego, which means I speak or I say. Okay, but here it's like we say, so legomen. This is the plural form of the verb. So you have the main stem of the verb, and then you have the pronoun, first, second, or third person, singular or plural, goes on the end of the verb. And logon, again the word is the nominative singular is logos, and we see that word a lot in scripture, logos. Jesus Christ is the logos, he's the word. But in this case it's the accusative. So you'd have to look in your chart and you'd see that it finishes with the accusative singular is omicron noon. So we say a word, and there's no article, it's not the. Remember, if you don't have the, then there's no article. So this would be a word, and now we're getting into the genitive, and of death. So if it says of death here, then this should tell you that the noun death, you'd have to find out what the word death means, and you put it into the genitive case, because it means belonging to, something belongs to somebody or something. So of death, in this case, is thanatu. And Thana 2, see the Omicron upsilon ending, that's the genitive singular. Okay, I won't go back to the chart because it's a bit difficult to go backwards and forwards, but if you've got your, maybe you've got your notes in front of you there, you can see that Tana 2, that's the genitive, the Omicron upsilon is the genitive singular ending. And so we just translate that of death. And then Dulo, and again, some of you when you were writing, you actually got this word correct, but you had the omega without the iota subscript. And that iota subscript is very important. And on the lexi, I'll bring this up now. We'll do the lexi logos. So just bring up the software for this. Okay, again, if you're using this here, and I think this is what most of you are using, is the lexi logos, the multilingual keyboard. You've got your main alphabet letters through here. That's the big letters, the capitals, and then you have the small letters through here. With some of them have accents. But on this next line here, there's the alpha with the iota subscript. Okay, and so all of these alpha here, and so in this case you'd have to, when you're doing the dative singular form, you need to go to this one here. Like for dolu, to a servant, dolos, but it takes on the omega iota subscript on the end. Okay, so just make sure you can see that. And I think sometimes in the photocopies, if you photocopy it off, it might not show too clearly, but you just have to be aware of this little, it's actually an iota, that's why they call it iota subscript, like the letter here, but it hangs off the bottom. Okay, so you'll see it again if I just change the sharing here. Go back to where we were. Okay, and there it is there. So dolu on this one here. Okay, so again the sentence, words and laws we write to our brethren, graphomen, logus, kai nomus, adelphois, two brethren. And then a word of death. So a word is just logon, of death, tana two. And we say, so this is legomen, we speak or we say to a servant. And you see that the grammar there is actually quite different from the English. Or here in English, a word of death we say to a servant, but if you did this literally here, it would be we say a word of death to a servant. A little bit different here. Okay, so the same for number 10, we'll just go through it slowly. A son, weos. And he's the one that's doing the action, so he's the subject of the sentence. So that's why we just have weos, and there's no pronoun, for, no article. Excuse me. So a son is seen, blepe. Here you have the verb, and it's the third person singular ending. If you remember in the endings, you have blepo, that's first person, blepes. Blepes is second person, that would be you see, and then the third person, he, she, it sees is blepe. And then you get into the second person, that'd be blepomen. We had the omen up here, that's we. And then ye, there's that ye is like ye, you people, and the so you plural, that would be blepete. And then for they, which would be the third person plural, that's usi or usin comes on the end. Okay, so you should be starting to remember those now. Like for example, in the verb endings, like there's only sort of six things you have to remember. That's for the masculine. Yeah, for the feminine, it changes, and it changes for the tense as well. But for what we've done so far, you've only had to remember those 6 verb endings. So weos, so that's the third person singular. Our son, that's this guy over here. Blepe, he. And we don't say he sees, but we just translate as our son sees, and he's seen temples. Now you had the word hieros or hieron in the text, and I'm not sure why I changed this to naus, because that's I think it's a more common in the notes. It's naus is actually a temple, meaning within the big main grounds, whereas hieron means that the sort of the greater area of the temple. Okay, so there's a slight difference here. Naus is, again, it's like the temple building, as opposed to the whole temple vicinity, which is hieros, I think. But naus kai oikus, and this is accusative. So these are the things that have been seen. So the son sees the temples, sees temples and houses, or is seen. Okay, and remember, when we translate it into the simple tense English, it's just, you can say sees or is seeing. I speak or I am speaking, for example. That's the present simple tense. Okay, number 11, just 2 words here, and in the English it's 3, like ye know death. Oh, so, and actually ye, this is incorrect as well, because, I get confused sometimes. Ye is the plural. So this should be ginoskete, not you, I think. So yeah, ye, I think it's usually in the old King James, they take it as being plural. So this should be ginoskete, but if you said ginoskes, that would be you. Thanaton, very simple. This is just the word for death, and in the accusative. Okay, so number 12, thou takest an apostle's gift. A gift of an apostle. So they actually had that in the book just to help you along a little bit. So when you do see the words an apostle's gift, you can say that as a gift. A gift will be accusative of an apostle. That's the genitive. So lambanes doron, you are taking. Remember, lambano, that's the basic form, can actually mean to take, or can mean to bring, or something like that as well. So, but you are taking, or that thou, see this is King James, so from what they've got in the book, a gift, but it's the accusative, and now you have to see apostolou, that's the first person genitive. So if you see a genitive like this, just say in your mind, of what? Of an apostle. And what is of an apostle? Well, it's the accusative form. A gift of an apostle you are taking. So you are taking a gift of an apostle. And this is where, in the original notes I got it wrong here. I was thinking apostolone, which that's the plural, but actually it's the singular. That's where Ryan got it right here. Okay, number 13. Thou art writing a brother's word to a servant. So this is you, is graphes, epsilon iota sigma. That's the second person. Second person means you. Remember, first person I, second person you, third person is he, she, it, or it can be they in the plural. So you are writing. Logon, a word. That's quite simple now. It should be forming in your mind. This is simple. You see this? It just means a word. Of a brother. And then dolo, to a servant. That's a servant. So you are writing a word of a brother, and then to, see the iota subscript, that'll tell you that this is a servant, that's a singular, and to a servant. Okay. Any questions so far? Hopefully I'm not going too fast for you. Okay, if you do have any questions, just open up your microphones and let me know, or you can send a message through. We'll just finish off the last ones quickly. I think you should be getting the idea now. I loose servants. We don't normally say this in English. Normally say I free, perhaps. I free servants. Or I loose servants and say words to sons and brothers. So again, the word luo, this is probably the first word that we learned in the Greek. It just means I loose. Do loose. So the word slaves there is in the accusative. That's they're the objects of what's happening. So I loose servants. There's 2 words there. And I say words. Logos, to. See, and you have the iota sigma. They're telling you this is the dative plural. And dative plural form, I guess so. And it's masculine, so we ois. So he's speaking to sons and to brothers. So I speak, so I lose servants and speak words to sons and to brothers. A son sees death. So a son, if you're going through the from the English to the Greek, you can write the word son in, or you can put the verb first. Okay, but in this case, it wouldn't matter the order. You could say thanaton, huios, blepe. That would make perfect sense as well, because here you have the subject. You can recognize the subject. He's doing the action, and he sees blepe thanaton. A son sees death. And then number 16, they know laws and teach servants of an apostle. So we've got two phrases here. You got the first phrase, they know laws, and then you have the conjunction, kai, and then you're going to have the second phrase here, genos kousin, they know laws. I say genos kousin is they know. What do they know? They know laws. So the laws are sort of something that's known by them. The laws aren't doing the action. But that's why we call them the object of the action. So they know laws, kai, didas krusen, and teach. So that they are teaching, or we just say, they know laws and they teach. You could say they teach, and they're teaching to the servants. So this and this, that's right. So that now that's the acute teach servants. Oh no, so that's I got that on. If you're teaching, I guess you'd say teaching to servants. Actually, that should have a sigma on the end, sorry, so that's incorrect as well. It should be doulos, so teaching to the servants. That's directional, but they're teaching the servants of the apostles, apostolon. So again, this should be corrected to sigma on the end of that, because that's plural. We're teaching servants of apostles. Okay, and that's, of an apostle. Omicron nu is, I've got that one wrong. So that's, I've got the plural here, so that should be sigma. Just like I made the same mistake here, actually. So I've said apostles here, where this is plural, it should be singular apostolou, because it's just an apostle. So this should be apostolou here as well. Wow, I made two mistakes there. Okay, so even the teacher's getting it wrong. But you got the general idea, okay? And I think, just to review that, you can look through it and get the different parts of speech. And you really need to understand what is the subject, what is the verb, what is the object, and the different forms of those three things there. Okay. But we'll just do this for maybe another couple of weeks, and then we can start to move on to different forms of the verbs and more complex sentences with a lot more examples. And I'll have another Greek lesson for you. Should be about midweek if I get time to do that. Okay.
By the way, Pastor Tim, sorry.
Yes, Pastor?
By the way, Pastor Tim, the number 15, is it not okay if we will just translate it huios brevi thanaton in like number 15?
Yeah, sorry, how did you say that? Huios blepe thanaton?
Oh, yes, huios brevi thanaton.
Yeah, that's perfectly correct.
That is also correct. Okay.
Yeah.
And this number 14, we are using Leo. Is this loss or because I understand that this is say.
Yeah.
But you are using here in the word loss. Is this also translated loss or also the word say?
Well, because you have the two words here, so I loose servants. So we're talking about like here is in the form here, luo.
Okay.
Okay, and then you got the word say over here, lego. So you have these two, these are verbs effectively, I loose, and here you got I speak.
Okay. That's why I just left that one. I'll never translate that to Greek, the word I lost. I just go directly to the doulos.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Yeah, I wondered about that because it looked like you'd missed off a word at the front there. So that would be the verb there. But again, they're saying two different things, and the sentence, it looks a bit funny in the English, I guess, but again, you got the verb there, and then with the first person on the end of it, and then they do the same thing over here.
So this is the only thing that I missed. I'll never wrote this one.
Oh, okay. Okay. But again, yeah, like when you're going from the English to the Greek, even the answers could be different, but they could be correct. And as long as I could see that you were forming, and some of them I would actually give you maybe half a mark or a mark, even though there might be small things incorrect. Like you might have got one word that should have been a genitive and you put the dative form or something like that. But if you got generally most of the words correct, I would give you a mark for that. Yeah, but don't worry too much about the marking at the moment. And again, some people I just had to say fail because there was just too much wrong. But again, there's sometimes in the Greek, there can be, like in any language, I say translate something from English to say Visayan, and 2 or 3 different people it would translate it differently, but all their translations would be good.
And also, Pastor Tim, in number 13, thou art writing a brother's word to a servant. And then we just translate here the word dulon. Dulon. Is this a plural or because the word here is just the word here is singular.
That's correct, because it says here thou art writing a brother. Oh, I see. Well, because the English literally says a brother's word. Yeah, and normally we would say brother's words, I guess, if you're writing a letter, but here we're trying to do a literal translation. And they just gave us in the book, it just says a brother's word. So when it says a brother's word, just one word, then we sort of have to translate it into the singular in the Greek. So that's why we have logon. But I guess a word, can also mean a message as well. So they could say you are writing a brother's message, or you might have different words for that. But when you're doing the translation work for your homework, try to keep it as literal as possible, even if it doesn't make sense. I think the idea is to make sure that we're getting the Greek correct.
My answer for that, Pastor, is logo. Is that wrong? Logo? There's no...
You mean just lambda, omicron, gamma, omicron?
Yeah.
Well, there's no such word.
No such word?
There's no such word. Because it has to have to finish off an ending off you can't just say logo, it would have to have a sigma or a nu.
Because I check in translation, it means there's a reason, or in the translation, but there's no such word.
Not in the Koine Greek, no.
Okay.
No, you won't see that.
Thank you, Pastor Tim. I now understand that the word here, why we write logon, is it because this is the third person?
No, logon is the noun. So what this is saying, that it's in the accusative case. I'll just go back to the book. Where do I have the book here? Here. Okay, now if we're talking about, see, these are here we have it here, okay. So we had the word logon. Now this is the same declension as the word son. Logos would be singular in the nominative, but when you come down to here, you see the omicron nu. So logos, you'd use the omicron nu off the ending. This is the accusative ending. He's writing a word. So his action is doing something, and it's actually acting upon the word there as being written, if you can see it like that. This is the same ending that we had in that question there. You are writing a word, you use the ending here. Okay.
But this is not because of the third person, no?
No. When you're talking about the person, like first person, second person, third person, that only relates to the verbs. That's the
Okay,
verb,
okay.
that's the verb endings.
That's for the verb,
Yeah.
but this is for the noun.
This is for the noun.
Okay,
And even
thank you.
like, because you talk about first person I as a noun, but it's really, we talk about that, it's the pronoun ending that goes on the end of the verb. So when we talk about verbs, we don't talk about first person, second person. Sorry, when we talk about nouns, sorry. And nouns, we
Thank you,
don't talk
Pastor
about
Ken.
first, second, third person, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now just to finish off for the Greek class today, we're not gonna do the Matthew chapter today, but I do want to have a look at a verse in the Bible. I mentioned this 1 Peter 1:19. It's just an interesting verse to just to show you a little bit how the Greek works, and I don't expect you to sort of understand a lot of this, but what I would like you to understand is the way that the Greek grammar works together. I'll bring up the compare here. Okay. And the grammar it's a little bit complex, but hopefully if we go through it just a little bit slowly. I'm losing the internet connection here. Okay, yeah, the grammar is a little bit complex, but we'll just do it slowly here. Now, 1 Peter 1:19, we had that in that's in the Ruth lesson. Translates, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without blemish and spot. Okay, so it's fairly, I mean, in the English it doesn't look that difficult, I guess. In the Greek, again, it's not too difficult. We have the conjunction, but. Okay, that's how they translate Allah, it's just but here. Now we don't have the word with, but what we're going to see here, timeo, I'll bring it up here. Timeo is going to mean precious or worthy or something like timeos. That's where you get the name Timothy from. Timothy means precious to God. That's my name, Tim. I just get shortened down to Tim. So that's why my mother named me Timothy. That's my middle name, actually. But she wasn't thinking about the biblical meaning or what the Greek meant. I think she just liked the name, she said. But anyway, so timeo or any of those forms of the word timeos, this is an adjective. The A here means adjective, dative, singular, neuter. Remember, dative can be dative, locative, or instrumental of means. So showing direction towards something, or it can show the place of something, a time. It even talks about time when a time happened, or in this case, instrumental of means by. So this is why they translate the word but, or they say with, or but by the precious blood of Christ, or through the precious blood. Okay, so again, this is going to be the adjective. Now the word here is timeo haimati. Haimati means blood. Okay, I'll bring it down here. Haima. Okay, haima is the root word of the stem, but that would be in the nominative. But here we're in the dative. Okay, so the endings change. It's a noun. And remember, the adjective, it classifies the noun. So for example, you say a house. A house that's just a noun. A big house, now you add the adjective to it. So you're describing the house. The word big is an adjective. Or you could say big red house. So the words big and red, those are adjectives. They're not nouns. The word big is not a noun. It's not a thing you can see. And the word red, though you can say it's a color as a noun, but really red or any color is an adjective because it describes something. So you could say a big red old house, and all of those are adjectives and they're describing the noun. Okay, so the word precious here, that's the adjective. What sort of blood is it? It's precious blood. So here you have again, this is the adjective. A means the adjective in the software here. And dative, singular, neuter. Now notice how when you see the ending here, DSN, it has to match. And if you're looking through your software and you're trying to put things together, the nouns will always match the adjective in the type of case and the number, that's singular, dative, singular, and the neuter, and the what you call the sex, I guess, or the gender. So N is neuter, but you also have masculine and feminine. Okay, see here, for example, once we get down to the noun here, this is the noun Christou for Christ. we're going to see is genitive, singular, masculine. So this is Christ obviously is masculine, he's male, so it's masculine, but here is a neuter. So the word blood is a neuter noun. And the adjective that's going to describe the word, the noun, or the word blood, has to be the same. Okay, so that's a basic principle in Greek. You always need to remember is that the adjectives always need to relate, or they have to fit together with the nouns, and the adverbs are the same. The adverbs have to fit the verbs in the same way. Okay, so here we've got the blood, but by means of, see dative, we can translate as by means of or with, we're talking about salvation here, I guess, but by the means of the precious blood of, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now we say of Christ. See, they translate precious blood of Christ, but the word of Christ, see, genitive we often translate as of, belongs to. So here the word, you have the word Christos. Okay, the root stem is Christos here. You see this hundreds of times in the Bible, of course, it's talking about Christ. But the ending changes, Christou. And if you go back to your chart, you would see that the genitive, the first person, the singular genitive form of the noun is ou, omicron upsilon. So that's why the word Christ, his name Christ, his title, changes from omicron sigma to omicron upsilon. And if you see that in a noun, then you could just translate as of, and that's what they do here, of Christ. So if you're reading it like we're reading English, you would say but, Allah, by means of, see that's the dative, so when you see the word by means, dative, you can say by means of what? The precious, see this word is precious, blood, haimati, and that's in the dative, so by means of the precious blood, and then you skip over. We're not going to use these words here. We go straight over to Christ, of Christ. And this is how, as an example of in the Greek, how the words, it doesn't really matter. The author, that's Peter, he could have put here haimati and then put the word Christou there. In English, that would make sense. Allah timeo haimati Christou. But he didn't do that. See, what he's doing is emphasizing that Christ is the Lamb without spot and blemish. So he puts it into the middle. By the precious blood as a lamb without spot and blemish of Christ. That's sort of how it looks in the literally in the Greek. Okay, so you have to see that again. But by the precious blood, again, of Christ. And that's genitive, so we say of Christ. And now we have, so it's almost like it's been inserted in here to, I would say, to further classify Jesus Christ and giving a further description as. So hos means here. Now, you don't see it in the software up here, but here we have the rough breather. You can see it on here. They put it on there, and so the word is hos. You see this word a lot. How many times? 108 times in the New Testament. And I'll just give you the different meanings here. Let me show you up here. So which, how, that is, in that manner. I think this is the word where you have, hutos is a certain form of this. For God loved the world so much. Or we can translate God loved the world in this way. And you have the word hutos, which is a form of hos, meaning in this way. Okay, but you see that word a lot. So as, but in this case say as, and then you have, that's an, they say that's an adverb. Okay, and then amnu. And amnu, again, is the word amnos, which means a lamb. Okay, there's another word, anion, for lamb. So, and anion, you often see a lot in amnos, so they seem to be interchangeable. I'm not sure if there's any theological difference. I think it's something that scholars argue about, that there might be slight differences in meaning, but I've never really seen a clear definition that separates the two between these two words that are used in the Greek Testament. Again, that's amnos and anion. But here you have amnu, and that means a lamb, and then we have amomu. It's an interesting phrase, actually. Amnu amomu, which means a lamb without spot. Okay. Now here we have an alpha primitive. I'm going to give you, there's a lot of information here, but this is also important. When you see the word, or many Greek words, in this case you have momu, which would be spot, but they put the alpha, what they call the privative. And privative means to deprive of something. So you say not. So to be spotted, now saying not without. Or I should do a proper lesson about this later, but it just means without spot. We have the word dikaios. Dikaios in Greek, you're going to see this word a lot. Dikaios means righteous. And if you put the alpha in front, it becomes adikaios, which means unrighteous. So you see the word it's like having the UN in English, it means not, un. Again, righteous, unrighteous. And again, 1 John 1:9. God cleanses us from all unrighteousness, which is adikios. Okay, so here we have the phrase a lamb without spot. Okay, and this is in the genitive case. Okay, because it fits in with the adjective as of. See, we had the word as of a lamb. That's how they do it in the English. As of a lamb. So that's why they would say, and they put it in the genitive, because the genitive case where you see the word of being used to translate it. So as of a lamb, and now the word spotless, amomu, has to take on the same form. It's describing the word lamb over here. Genitive, singular, masculine. So again, when they're writing down the adjective to describe the noun, the adjective has to fit. It has to follow the noun. So amomu, this is in the accusative in this case. It's the adjective. Genitive, singular, masculine, and that fits with the noun here, genitive, singular, masculine. And in this case, the words are actually together. The adjective has been put with the noun, but in many cases, they might be separated with other words in the middle. But you can recognize that they belong together because they would have the same case and the same number, singular, masculine, singular, plural, or it's only singular or plural, or the gender, whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. Okay, and then just to finish off, we have kai, which of course you know as and then aspilu, and aspilu was I think they say without. So the first one was without blemish and without spot. I think that the meanings are quite similar until you get into the theological meaning. And the theological meaning, without spot and blemish, remember Jesus Christ, without spot means that he has there's no sin nature. That's the way the kernel teaches it. And then the blemish, aspilo, means without the personal sins. And he actually didn't have Adam's original sin as well. That relates to the sin nature as well. But so Jesus Christ without spot and blemish, no sin nature and no personal sins. Okay. So that was it. I just thought I'd give that as an example. It's a little bit complex, but you've got the information there, and maybe after we've closed off the lesson this evening, you can go back and just try to look through or review what I've said here. I won't say it again because, again, you can look back on the video and go through it. But you
Pastor Tim, I have a question.
Yes, of
The
course.
word aima,
Yep.
is that a dative, not a genitive?
In this case, it's dative. That's correct. Yeah.
It's not from Jesus Christ, right? It's from Jesus Christ, right? The blood.
Oh, it is, but see, what we have is the word of Jesus. The word of fits in with the one that is the possessor of the noun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what I observe, it's this is on the lamb is genitive, the word amnos, and also the
Oh,
word.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing because he's got this. I think you'd call it like a parenthesis in here.
Okay.
Okay. So these words here that I've covered over in the covered over here. That
So
is-
genitive, right?
yeah, that's in the genitive because it relates to the word horse, as of.
The word os. Okay.
Okay, but if you took this out, and then what the sentence would say is, but by the precious blood of Christ. And so you have the word of Christ here.
Okay.
And again, it's a fairly, it's a complex sentence, and that there's excuse me, you do have the what's put in the parenthesis here. But the genitive here relates to the fact we're using the adjective hos, but the genitive here, and actually you've got the dative as well. See, but by the means of, or but with, or even you could say but through the precious blood of Jesus Christ.
Okay, again.
Yeah,
I
and
understand.
let me just go back a verse because we need to know the context here. To be redeemed. See, knowing that you are not redeemed with corruptible things, silver or gold, from your main manner of life. So we're talking about redemption. How were you redeemed? And then in verse 19 says, by means of. Not by those other things of the world, but by means of the precious blood of Christ, who was, or as of. And now the writer, Peter, is going back to the Old Testament sacrifices, reminding us those Old Testament sacrifices, the lambs had to be, they were all selected very carefully, had to be a lamb chosen without spot and blemish. Okay, so it probably is a little bit more complex than I was hoping for, because you got to break this into two parts. So the middle part is separate, and then you have the sort of the surrounding phrase, or the crux of it is, but by the precious blood of Christ.
Okay, Pastor Tim. Thank you.
By the way, Pastor Tim, I just want to ask regarding this amono and aspilo,
Okay.
because we're just using here prefix, but in English we are using suffix like spotless, blemish and spotless.
Okay.
There is no prefix in, there is no suffix in Greek.
Yeah, these do take on. You mean the suffix? Mean that the word endings?
Yes.
Yep. So, for example, if you have a look at the word amomu, okay, down here is have amomos. Now, amomos would be if it's in the nominative. If it's going to be an adjective for a nominative noun. Okay.
So,
but here, because the noun, in this case the lamb or amnu, is in the genitive, so everything that's going to be describing the lamb, the word lamb here, has to be in the genitive as well. So that's why even though amomos and aspilu or spilos, these words are adjectives, but they're describing the noun. So you go back to the noun and you look at the noun, you say, what form is the noun in? And the noun is genitive, singular, masculine. So now that they have to take those adjectives and they have to look at the genitive, singular, masculine form of the adjectives to make sure they get the correct endings.
yeah. But my question, Pastor Tim, is that we are just using here prefix. Am I right?
Suffix. A prefix would come beforehand, and the suffix is at the end of it. Yeah.
So we're using here. So this OU is suffix.
Yeah. The omicron upsilon. That's the suffix for the genitive, singular, masculine.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I thought that we put here because.
Oh, sorry. So you're talking about the alpha at the front. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So, but this is actually a word by itself. But if you looked at the root word of amomos, and it will tell you here actually, it says from G1. See that the G1 word is the alpha. That's the first word in the Greek lexicon as a negative particle. Okay, and G3470. I think I could probably bring that up on my dictionary. It takes too long to come up. Okay, but G3470 would be the word momu or momos, something like that, which means to be, how would they say it? G3, I can just go back here. So if we looked at the word G3470, see the word there is momos. Okay, and momos, which means a flaw or a blot, so they have a blemish. But if you put the alpha on the front, it means without blemish. And that's how a lot of the Greek words are. You're bringing sort of two root words together to make a new word. And aspelu would be the same. So the root word here is spilos. I won't have the ending. And you put what they call the alpha privative on at the start, and it means not, or unblemished, or unspotted, perhaps.
In my
So-
translation, morally.
Yeah, but what they've done there is that
Physically.
they've taken more of a sort of a figurative translation, not the literal translation.
Okay. Aspilos.
Yeah. But see, to
Okay.
say moral, that wouldn't fit in with the translation here. You wouldn't say Jesus Christ is a moral lamb. Yeah.
So when there is a prefix like this that is without, like a millennial or like that, is that
Yeah. Yeah, that would be correct, actually. So you say without, you could say or not, without spot. And actually, while we're at it, I'll give you the example from 1 John 1:9 so you can see it. Because you're familiar with
But the word apostolos, Pastor Tim, is not.
No,
It's a original word.
that's right, yeah. So you
Without
have to be
apostle.
careful of that. It's not like you have the word apostle and then apostle. But usually, if you're looking through your lexicons, it might actually tell you if it breaks down the word. See, 1 John 1:9, you might have done studies in Greek on this word before. 1 John 1, and actually, we have the word hamartia, and hama, or actually armor, means to miss the mark. So something that you can probably see traces of the alpha primitive. This is the word for sin. But here we have, okay, see, God is faithful. Pistos means faithful. He is. And now you have the word dikaios. See, this word dikaios here, which means righteous. God is righteous. I'll just bring this up a bit here. I'll bring that up. Okay, so dikaios. Now that's the word here. We have holy. They usually translate it as righteous. Yeah, he is faithful and just in this case. Okay, he's faithful and just. Yeah, okay. But dikaios, you can either say just or righteous. In the Greek, it's the same word. Now, that's the word dikaios. But when you come down here, you have the word adikaios. You see these two words? It's the same word. The ending is a little bit different, of course, but here this is the word just or righteous, and then you come down to the word here, unrighteous. And all I've done is I've put the alpha privative on the start. Okay, but so that's something you need to remember later as you're looking at Greek words and just the way they're formed. Again, it just means like unrighteous in this case. Okay.
okay? Thank you, Pastor Tim.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? No? Okay, so I'll start sending in some new lessons with the tests, and sort of by midweek, I hope. I'm still waiting. I think there's a couple of you that haven't sent your 106 tests in, so you need to get that done fairly soon. Okay. Anyway, so let's just finish off with a closing prayer here. Okay, let's bow our heads. Father, sir, we give thanks to you for the time and the opportunity that we've had to study Bible doctrine, as well as studying some Greek here as well. We know this is a difficult task, but it's a very important one, especially for those of us who have the position of pastor teacher. We've been given the gift, and we know that with proper concentration and diligence, that we can accomplish great things through our academic studies of these, and that you could use us for your purpose in ministering your sheep, the flock that you've given to us. And we pray for guidance and humility and discipline and appreciation of all the things that you've given to us in Christ. And we pray these things in his name. Amen. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much,
Amen.
Pastor
To God be
Tim.
the glory.
Okay.
Thank you, Pastor Tim.
Okay, thanks all for joining, and we'll see you again next week.
See you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.